shocked that I haven't been recording the whole time. But yeah, that's GJ. I'll go through it very quickly just for the recording because I just noticed that I wasn't recording that whole time. So let me just delete everything off the chart. So this is GJ. The market is coming to a weekly OB. The weekly OB is valid because what we've had is a market that has broken structure to the downside, broken through multiple levels of structure, and this one down here. The market has given us that volume increase from that weekly OB, and therefore this weekly OB is valid. The market is now pushing into that weekly OBI. We want to see how the market is reacting inside of that zone and potentially be able to refine our entry inside of that zone, right? So what we do now is we drop down to the 1 hour time frame, and what I noticed was a very clear whack off distribution schematic in this whole zone right here. If I show us, right, you can see from here to here, right? I should just from that in that entire zone, we have a bit of whack of distribution action, right? What do I mean by that? I mean, you can call this your preliminary supply, right? These are bias climax. This is our automatic rally. These are secondary test accumulating liquidity at that little area of triple top. Then the market pushes out of that area, giving us our UT, right? So that's what we've had so far. Bias climax. We've had an automatic rally, secondary test, right? Push up, right? Then what we have is the market form our UT. The market retraces, forms our UTAD, right? Break structure below the low, right? Then what we have the market is push upwards again, coming to an area of OB right here. This is where I got my entry, and this is what I posted in the group chat. This is what I called in last time's call, our most recent call, right? So this was the area of OB that I entered from. My sales are right here. My stop loss was just above that OB, and I am targeting. If I show you my targets, I'm targeting levels all the way down here. Why am I targeting levels all the way down there? Let me just get rid of this right rectangle. It's a bit trippy because it makes it look as though it's trending, but we're trying to say it's reversing. So here we go. This is why I targeted there, is because we have an area of imbalance right here. So what I'm looking to do is next week, because I didn't hold this over the week, the weekend, is I'm hoping to get re-entries later on to take them the sell lower, and lower again into areas down here. So that's my game plan for GJ. That's just a quick breakdown for the people on the call. Now let's look at any questions. So BM asks, do you see a whack-off happening on weekly time frames? Uh, Not quite sure what you mean. On the weekly time frame, it's very unclear if there were to be any whack-off. I'm not seeing any wyckoff really on the weekly time frame. And plus, weekly is a bit too high of a time frame. I think the highest time frame you could go for wyckoff is the 4 hourly. Wyckoff on something like the weekly or monthly doesn't make logical sense because we're looking at smart money trying to stack orders. And if they're stacking orders over decades, right, that doesn't really make sense for to be holding a trade for a decade, right? Um, but Dan asks, USDCHF is still in that buy zone to watch for the week depending on where price opens. Yeah, I'll go through USDCHF. Anthony says, can you share in the chat when you will short GJ? Of course I will. I just forgot to do that for that. This was my bad. I should have been clearer. But if we look at any re-entry opportunities, this is a nice re-entry opportunity right here on GJ that will have actually alerted out for us. So let me just do that right now. So here's that alert. I've set that alert for GJ. Where else could be a nice buying opportunity? Up here could potentially be a nice buying opportunity, but it's very unlikely that it's going to go all the way up there again. Maybe if you join the fib for something like this, because it looks to be that reversal seems to be slowing down. This area here is between that the 318, 382, and oh 05, so that could be a nice area that we look for. All the market could continue going to the downside, right? It could go to levels down here, take out liquidity below these lows, right? I didn't mean to do that. Let me just make that a bit clearer. So below these lows. So if it does that and then goes higher, right, then this zone would be in between our zero point 0.5 and 0.618, which is a nice area that we look for the market to be discounted from and for the market to reverse and continue dropping from, right? So what I'd say it's probably going to continue dropping for some more, then come back up, take out liquidity below lows here, and then come into an OB up here. This is a nice OB that's valid and that has broken structure, as you can see, and we're expecting it to break structure again below this low. Right, so that's what I'd expect. I'd expect for you to keep watching GJ, and I will post this in the group chat when the market comes into my entry price. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anthony says, okay, yeah, BYP says Bitcoin to 20K. I haven't looked at Bitcoin, and I told you guys, remember, I told you guys, I've been telling you guys in like every call, that Bitcoin is, I'm not going to be putting any money in Bitcoin. and I told you guys why, and I told you why I was expecting a full stock market crash and crypto market crash, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, this time it crashed because of news, and no one could have expected that, like Elon Musk and his news, because I can't read Elon Musk's mind, right? So there was no way I could have expected it. But from the technicals, I know one of our traders, Smart Money Mo, he did call it. There was a whack of distribution coming through for Bitcoin. So if I just go to Bitcoin right now, there's a little bit of whack of distribution. If I show us and we go into something like this, we delete everything here, right? There was a little bit of whack of distribution in this zone up here. So you could argue this is your primary supply, your bias climax, your automatic rally, taking out areas of imbalance down here. Then what we have the market is push up for my UT, right? Push up again for my UTAD. UTAD break structure below a low here, right? So it's valid. Then the market comes back to a last point of supply and sells off massively, right? So we did have a nice whack off going through. So there may have been a bit of, you know, behind the action, smart money manipulating, and like Elon Musk, I don't know, working with some bank somewhere. I don't know. This is conspiracy theories at this point, but like, um, we did call it in terms of Wyckoff. I didn't enter anything on Bitcoin. I entered Bitcoin back when it was at like 20 something K, and I took out all of my money at 60K. I doubled my money and I was out for Bitcoin. I didn't enter at 20K, I entered at 30 something K. I'll pull up my thing and I'll put it in the my screenshots on my Coinbase, and I'll put it into the crypto calls if you want. But I did have that happen, and then I was out. You can see it did form a little bit of nice whack of distribution, giving smart money opportunities to sell here, here, and here, maybe even here as well. So this could have been a bit of market manipulating, but it looks to me that now Bitcoin is just coming to an OB here that looks very nice. So it could push upwards now. Um, 20K, I'm not quite sure about 20K. Doesn't look like there are any clear OBs that I could go to. You could potentially argue that this is an OB that Bitcoin could go to, but this is at 18K. It's very, if Bitcoin goes to 18K, that'd be very problematic for a lot of people. So I don't think it's gonna go to 20K anytime soon. I think that will continue to push to the upside, and that nice areas to enter from would probably be now, if I tell the truth. If we look at maybe something like the 5 minute and reset our chart, it looks to me that we might even have a little bit of Wyckoff action going on. So it pushed into our zone, pushed back out nicely. How many pips is this? I mean, this is Bitcoin, so it's going to be huge. But it pushed up for 40% of the price of Bitcoin, which is nice. You could call it a nice buy from this zone, taking it higher. But I don't think Bitcoin will continue to go low. I think it needs to at some point come back and take out areas. But I'm not entering any trades on Bitcoin just because exactly why I said before, it's volatile as fuck, and I don't want to be entering any trades on assets that are as volatile as Bitcoin. You could argue that there is a nice area of imbalance that it could potentially go to. So I didn't mean to do that. Just give me a second. Let me lock it. So you could argue that this is an imbalance that it could go to. So it's gonna push into our entry price and then push back out into areas of imbalance up here. But I'm not gonna be entering any trades on Bitcoin. Just too volatile for me. That's what I would say on the case of Bitcoin. So, any other questions? Let me take a look. No, none so far. Let's look at Dan wanted me to go through USDCHF. Let's go through USDCHF, right, and reset the chart. So here we go. We call the buy on USDCHF back here. It pushed up nicely for more than 100 pips, I think it was. Let me just take a look. Yeah, nearly 100 pips, 80 pips. I caught a nice buy up, and I got stopped out break even for this setup. I took partials at this level up here, but I got stopped out break even for the bulk of my position. There is still daily liquidity up here, as you can see. All right, there's daily liquidity up here. So it could come up higher. There's my entry, by the way. If you're curious about the entry, there's a nice bit of consolidation in that zone. If I just take it back and I show you how I was able to refine that zone. We go to the 5 minute. You can see that we had this nice bit of consolidation before the big push to the upside inside our overall area of consolidation here, right? So this is where I got my entry. And then if I just get out of replay mode now, you go to where my actual entry was. So the market tapped me in, as you can see, was a very perfect entry and then pushed up to the upside, right? I took partials at this level of liquidity here, but then I was stopped out for most of my. I think I took partials for like less than 1% here, and then it stopped me out. But it is now beginning to push upwards again. So what we can do is we can look back to see maybe it's just formed equal lows, because that could be potentially risky and you don't want to be entering trades. At least you don't want to be entering buys if it's just formed equal lows. So to me, it looks to me that it hasn't quite formed equal lows. It's formed close to equal lows, but not quite equal lows. So this trade could still potentially be valid if I show us. Where would I expect we to get a re-entry from? It looks to me that there's a nice OB right here that you could get a nice re-entry from. Or even it's just coming to an area here, as you can see. This was a nice OB. The market is just coming to that area. So maybe when the market retraces, you could get another re-entry here. So USD chaff is still in play, I would say. And we do have a nice area of support and resistance up here. So if I show us, you can see that we have this area of resistance turn support, I should say. But it's, you don't even need to think about the resistance. You could just mark this out as an area of I mean, I'm not talking about support turn resistance, not resistance and support. But this, you can see there's like a triple top here, and it starts four times here. So you know there's a very clear amount of daily liquidity that it's gonna come take out. So I would say USDCHF is still in play. USDCHF looks very nice to me. I remember another trader was telling me about CAD JPY, looking at potential Wyckoff distribution on CAD JPY. Why CAD JPY did do what I said it would do. So in one of these calls back, I don't remember, I called that CAD JPY would come into an OB here and then sell off, which is exactly what happened. As you can see, it pushed down for more than 100 pips, right? So I didn't get any entries for this, obviously, but it did that and then it pushed lower. You could argue that we have a little bit of Wyckoff distribution, so this being something like your primary supply, bias climax, secondary test, push up, or UT, push up again, or UTAD. Then we have our push down breaking structure below these lows, and you could be looking at re-entries now to take the market low from this point, right? So CAD JPY is looking very promising, and as you can see, if I haven't mentioned so far, we have higher time frame confirmation as well. So if I show us, we go on to something like the weekly time frame, you can see that we have a nice OB, or was it the daily? Let me just go to the daily to make sure, right? There's a nice OB up here that the market is just coming to, right up here. If I just show us, so the market has just pushed into that OB level, right up there. You could even just refine it to that very last candle, and the market is just pushed into that OB, touched in nicely, and we're seeing a whack of distribution now on the 1 hour time frame. So what you could do is you could do something like this, then go on to something like the 1 minute or the 5 minute, and look to see if there are um, any ways you could have refined this. So to me, it looks to me that this would have been very hard to refine, unless you want to call something like this an area that you could have watched. At least on the 1 minute, it doesn't look very clean. Maybe let's look at something like the 10 minute to see if I look at what we're doing now is we're looking for re-entry opportunities, right? So on the 30 minute, here we go. You can see that we have a nice re-entry opportunity from this OB, right? And you just extend that to the right. We just play this market. So here we go. We take it back. This was a sell that I called a very long time ago in the watch list. If you guys are watching that, and I just played this market. Market pushed down some more, came back up. It took its time, but eventually it did come back up. Pushed into the zone, so we're expecting it to push up a bit more, right? And then now began to sell off, right? As you can see, pushed into our zone is now selling off, right? So any entries on CAD JPY as well do look very nice. I will post this in the group. So let me just get another Word document up, so new, just so that I don't forget. So what I'm posting in the group chat so far is USDCHF, um, CAD JPY, and then we'll see if there are any other pairs. But CAD JPY does look very nice for sales. We have a Wyckoff distribution as prices coming into our zone. But yeah, this does look very nice um, in terms of entries on CAD JPY. Anything else? Any other pairs that anyone wants me to go through? I will of course do that. But 1 second, let me just reply to someone. Someone wants me to go through gold. 1 second. Okay, Nasdaq, Nasdaq and gold. Great. Let's go through. Okay, we're getting loads and loads now. So GBP USD, we had the Nasdaq, and then we had gold. So let me just slow down a bit. We had loads and loads of thingies. But we have, so Beauty or Pips wants me to look at sugar. Great, we'll look at sugar. Why not? Watley wants me to look at Nasdaq, and then Juan and Amir want me to look at GU. So I'll look at GU. Dan says, can we just go through the list of top FX pairs and see if there is anything we should be looking for? Yeah, let's just do that. So what we've gone through now is GJ. GJ is a nice major pair. Let's look at Euro USD, the most liquid pair, and to see if there is anything that we could potentially be entering, right? And I do have a little bit of markings out. So let me just control Z that and see what I had marked out from before. So it looks to me that I have a 4 hour zone marked out up here, right? You could add that. The market is this zone looks mitigated, as you can see. Market pushed into our zone and then sold off some more. So this zone does look mitigated, if I do say so for myself. Um, you could argue that Euro USD just formed massive equal highs. So here we go, massive equal highs up here, right? So Euro USD looks to me that it's going to liquidate equal highs that is just formed, right? So those are the equal highs that I'm talking about. Let's see if there's any entry opportunities that we should be watching above those equal highs, and maybe see if we could be able to refine this and get an entry. Wait, what am I talking about? This one right here, right? And get an entry that wasn't mitigated, or maybe something like the 10 minute, right? So here we go. What we're watching that nice 4 hour OB that we were just looking at, to see if there's any entry opportunities that aren't mitigated. This looks very nice. So let's just extend this to the right. What else looks nice? This you could argue is nice. Let's just draw it out because why not? Uh, those are the clearest ones to me at least. Right, so those are the two zones that we could potentially be entering. So now let's now get out of replay mode and see if the market has pushed into any of those zones. As you can see, it hasn't. So what I'd say is, let's go into the 1 hour just to see everything a bit clearer. I would say continue watching EU because it could push up, liquidate equal highs, right? So I'm gonna post EU as well right now. So Euro USD. So I'll post Euro USD as well. So what I think is gonna happen for Euro USD is we'll have a push up, liquidating these equal highs into one of these areas, this one or this one. Then we'll have a push down. Let's see if there may be areas above here that could potentially, like, maybe like far back, but that, I mean, I don't want to look that far back. These are the two cleanest areas, as you can see. So I would like to see the market push up, right, and then sell off some more, because we still do have that weekly reaction and that higher time frame buys. If I show you that weekly reaction up here, so this is the area that we're watching. Market came into that area on the weekly time frame and is now looking like it's going to retrace, right, and then sell off some more. But we have to keep in mind we are not pro trend for this trade. You can see we are not pro trend. We do have higher time frame bias, and higher time frame bias is always king, but we are not pro trend. So you want to be watching this trade. Just watching it, see if you can get any re-entries. But of course, I'll post this in the group chat just to see if anyone wants to enter, they can of course do that. So just a quick recap for this EU. What I'm expecting is a push up to liquidate liquidity above here, come into one of these two zones and then sell off some. So that's what I'm expecting in Euro USD. Anthony, I think, or someone else asked that if I should go through gold. So let me go through gold right now. Right. So let me do that right now. So here we go. What do we have on gold? Right. Gold just took out a nice area of equal highs. So if we just do this, right, as you can see, what we have for gold is the just took out very nice area of equal highs, right? Let me just make that a bit less thick, right? So that's the equal highs, right? Then now what it looks like to me is the market is pushing up and taking out liquidity voids, right? So here we go. You could see that we could argue that this is a nice liquidity void that the market needs to come take out, right? So the market is probably going to continue to push upwards, maybe come into areas of OB up here, right? And then we could see a sell-off, taking out equal lows below here, right? But gold overall, in terms of our higher time frames, in terms of our weekly, monthly, has of course been bullish for a very long time. It is an asset that we look to get bullish once we have pushes like this. Um, but a healthy retracement can never do bad. And plus, what we have here is a liquidity grab to the upside. You could argue, however, that the retracement for that has already happened. So what we could be looking at now is another liquidity grab up here and then another retracement. But I'd still be watching gold. Gold isn't looking like anything, promising is happening at the moment, at least. We go on to the 15 minute maybe. We look at that liquidity grab a bit clearer. Um, yeah, gold isn't looking like anything is happening. I can't lie. Gold just looks as though it's consolidating after a liquidity grab, which is absolutely normal. So I think maybe we should just be watching gold. I'll set a couple of alerts because why not? So we have this area that we're watching, and then this area up here that we're watching. I'll set the alerts, but it's very, very unlikely that any of those will trigger and we'll be entering trades on any of those. Of course, yeah, Dan says metals will be bullish long term now. Not from this exact pip lol, but I do think it's bullish. Yeah. It probably will continue being bullish because obviously it's like the S&P. You don't want to really be shorting the S&P for it to go down, 50% because that just won't happen. It's the S&P. Similar to the S&P, gold is an asset that people hold in terms of investments, right? You don't want to be shorting investments for, uh, you know, for huge targets unless you're a hedge fund and you're Bill Murray or something. I don't know, but you don't want to be shorting investment type assets, and this is definitely an investment type asset. Gold, S&P, Nasdaq, all of those things are very investment type assets. You don't want to be shorting those with huge targets. So yeah, we've gone through. I'll send it through. Why not? Let's just go through. I'll send through gold as well. Why not? And then now let's go through AUD USD. So what have we had for AUD USD? AUD USD, I called this in the group as well. Not me, I actually didn't call this. I One of our group members called this. I think it might have actually been Dan. I'm not quite sure, but a group member called this. This is a very, very nice setup on AUD USD. So what we've had is yeah, Dan called this. This was nice from Dan. This was a very, very nice setup from Dan. Basically, what we had was the market form a weekly OB, as you can see again. Right, the market has come into our weekly OB. If I just show us that weekly OB, so we have the higher time frame bias, and now it's beginning to sell off. If we look at something like our 1 hour time frame, you can see that almost every OB has been looked after. Right, so if I just get rid of these two, 1 second. We had this OB form that had a lot of consolidation on its side. The market came into the OB, began to sell off. Then the market formed this area of consolidation, forming this OB. The market came to the OB and began to sell off. Right, so I don't know if you, I mean, it looks to me that it's forming a little bit of pattern, right? It's bearish, right? Because we have the higher time frame bias, and it's forming OBs coming into them, selling off, forming OBs coming into them, selling off. Now what we have here is another OB. So if I show you, so let me just get rid of these, right? If you can see this one right here, you can see that we have a very, very nice OB right here, right? The market could push into our OB and sell off some more. Maybe we look at something like the 5 minute to be able to refine that OB. And it looks to me we're gonna have to add the wick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually set an alert because I do have a lot of faith in AUD USD. So that's another pair, AUD USD, that we could be watching to get entries on. All right, so AUD USD, Euro USD, Gold, GJ, and now we have left G, right? So GBP USD. Let's look at GBP USD. Right. So what do I see on GPUSD? Do I see anything on the higher time frames? As I said before, there is a higher time frame weekly OB, or is it a daily OB? Let me just make sure that before I say anything too quickly. But here we go. It looks to me that there is a higher time frame OB on GU. Right, the market is pushing into a higher time frame OB and is now sold off nicely for multiple hundreds of pips, 500 pips, 600 pips. It looks like nearly 600 pips, and is now retracing and pushing upwards. It looks to me that we are bullish overall on GU, in terms of our long way, like higher time frame bias. And it doesn't look to me, at least at the moment, that it's forming any type of Wyckoff distribution or anything. You could argue perhaps that we are in the middle of a distribution. So you could argue this is your bit of primary supply, our push up, our bias climax, our automatic rally, our secondary test. And then we have our UT, and we're forming our UTAD now, and the market is going to break structure below here. Unless we see a break of structure below these equal lows down here, I wouldn't be looking at any sort of shorting opportunity on GJ, on GU at least. It looks to me that we're going to take out equal lows. So what could happen is the market could take out equal lows, retrace, come into an OB here, and then sell off, because then it would be valid, because we're in a higher time frame weekly OB, and then we are Wyckoff distributing inside that OB. But if that doesn't happen, I'd say it doesn't look like anything is gonna happen. So you could just quick recap: buy a primary supply, bias climax, automatic rally. You could either call this your secondary test, or this if you like. I'll call it this because that's like the general way people look at Wyckoff. They look at their bias climax, then their automatic rally to form, then their secondary test, and that secondary test is accumulating liquidity before getting taken out. So it does make logical sense for that to be the secondary test. Then we have our push up forming our UT. Then we have our second push up taking out liquidity above that UT at our UTAD. Right. So now what I'm expecting is a nice sell off from that UTAD. Right, taking out equal lows below here, pushing back up and then going down low, right? So this is what I'm expecting on GU. Let's just make this a little bit less thicker. Uh, so here we go. So there you go. This is what I'm expecting on GU. I'm expecting for it to sell off some more, take out equal lows down here that we have. As you can see, you can all see that there are very clear equal lows. So if I just mark those equal lows out, here we go. The market is going to probably take out those equal lows. Then we're going to see a pushback up, taking out OBs here and then going lower. So that's what we're looking at on GU. Why not? Let's push that into the watch list post as well. So we're looking at USD chaff. The most high probability setups, of course, are, I can't believe I forgot GJ. Let me just add GJ because that's the most probability, high probability setup on that we could be watching. So GJ is the highest probability. CAD JPY is also high probability. AUD USD and GU looks nice. So those are the priority ones. Basically, the major pairs, the ones that I trade. USD CHF is a minor pair. I entered a trade on it because I was doing an FTMO challenge. Um, and it ended up going nicely. So why not? CAD JPY is also a minor pair, but I'd be looking at it just because we've been seeing it's been teasing us for a long time. I shorted CAD JPY from that weekly OB a long time ago, and that ended up being a profitable setup. So that could be a nice setup as well. Um, Dan says Euro NZD might be a good RR trade to sell if it has a quick wick up. Let's look at Euro NZD. We do only have 1 minute left on this call. In fact, I'm just going to stop and I'm going to restart this call just because I don't want it to stop mid, while I'm explaining something. So I'll end this call and I'll restart the call in less than a couple minutes. So give me a second, boys. I'll be back.